It was an ordinary Tuesday morning when the skies above Earth began to change. People were going about their usual routines, children walking to school, office workers sipping coffee on their way to work, and farmers tending to their fields. But then something extraordinary happened. A strange shimmer appeared in the sky like a ripple spreading across water. At first, no one paid much attention. Some thought it was heat waves rising from the ground or perhaps a trick of light caused by the sun. But as the minutes passed, the shimmer grew brighter and more intense. In New York City, a young woman named Lisa stood outside her apartment building, staring up at the clear blue sky. She had just stepped out to grab breakfast when she noticed the unusual glow. "What is that?" she muttered under her breath. Her neighbor, Mr. Johnson, who was watering his plants, looked up too. His eyes widened behind his glasses. "I don't know," he replied nervously. "But it doesn't look natural." Far away in Tokyo, families gathered in parks for picnics paused mid-laughter to gaze upward. In London, tourists taking photos near Big Ben lowered their cameras, confused by the glowing anomaly overhead. Across continents, languages, and cultures, people everywhere turned their faces toward the heavens, united by curiosity and growing unease. Then came the ships. Massive vessels descended through the rift in the sky, each one larger than any skyscraper on Earth. They were sleek and metallic, with designs so advanced they seemed otherworldly. These weren't planes or rockets. They didn't resemble anything humans had ever built. Their surfaces reflected sunlight in dazzling patterns, making them appear almost alive. Slowly, silently, they positioned themselves above major cities around the globe. One hovered over Paris, another over Moscow, yet another over Sydney. There were dozens of them, maybe even hundreds. The world froze. Traffic stopped as drivers abandoned their cars to get a better view. News channels scrambled to cover the event, broadcasting live footage of the mysterious ships. Social media exploded with theories ranging from alien invasions to government experiments gone wrong. No one knew what to think, or what would happen next. Lieutenant Sarah Collins was standing on the rooftop of a military base in Nevada when she saw the first ship appear. She held a pair of binoculars to her eyes, her hands trembling slightly. As a soldier trained to remain calm under pressure, Sarah tried to focus on gathering information instead of panicking. "This can't be real," she whispered to herself. Yet there was no denying what she was seeing. The ship loomed above her, casting a shadow so vast it darkened the entire base below. Inside the command center, officers shouted orders, trying to make sense of the situation. Radar systems buzzed uncontrollably, unable to track the ship's movements accurately. Communication lines lit up as governments worldwide attempted to coordinate responses. Were these visitors friendly, hostile, or simply observers? While humanity grappled with fear and uncertainty, aboard the largest destroyer, Commander Zyrax paced anxiously. He was a tall, imposing figure with pale green skin and sharp, angular features typical of his species. For centuries, his people had watched Earth from afar, studying its inhabitants without interference. Humans fascinated them, not because of their intelligence, but because of their unpredictability. Despite possessing primitive technology compared to other civilizations, humans had displayed remarkable aggression and adaptability throughout history. Zyrax's superiors had always dismissed Earth as insignificant, believing its population posed no threat. Now, staring at the massive fleet hovering ominously above the planet, Zyrax felt a chill run down his spine. How had humans managed to construct such advanced ships? Had they been hiding their true capabilities all along? His thoughts were interrupted by a subordinate entering the bridge. "Commander," the officer said, saluting stiffly, "we've detected movement near the ships. It appears they're attempting to communicate." Zyrax frowned. "Communicate? With us?" "Yes, sir. They're using frequencies similar to ours, though rudimentary." Zyrax clenched his fists. This wasn't supposed to happen. His mission had been straightforward: observe Earth discreetly and report back. Instead, they now faced a potential confrontation with beings far more capable than anticipated. Back on Earth, Sarah continued watching the ships through her binoculars. Despite the chaos unfolding around her, she couldn't shake the feeling that this moment marked the beginning of something monumental. Whether it led to peace or destruction remained to be seen. As night fell, the ships remained suspended in the sky, silent sentinels casting long shadows over a bewildered planet. Lights flickered within their hulls, hinting at activity inside. Governments debated whether to launch missiles or send emissaries. Scientists speculated about the ship's origins and purpose. Ordinary citizens prayed for safety, clinging to loved ones as they stared at the stars. For Lieutenant Sarah Collins, however, the arrival of the ships represented both a challenge and an opportunity. Growing up, she'd dreamed of exploring space, of meeting intelligent life beyond Earth. Now it seemed those dreams might come true, but not in the way she'd imagined. Whatever happened next, Sarah vowed to play her part in shaping humanity's response. Little did she know, her actions would soon intertwine with those of others, people whose lives were about to change forever. From a young man locked in a holding cell to a brilliant scientist working in secret, every decision made during these early hours would ripple outward, influencing the fate of two worlds. And so, as the first day of the Star Destroyer's appearance drew to a close, humanity stood at a crossroads. Would they rise to meet this unprecedented challenge, or would fear and mistrust lead to disaster? Only time would tell. The morning after the arrival of the Star Destroyers, tension gripped the world like a vice. Governments scrambled to respond, military bases buzzed with activity, and ordinary citizens huddled together in fear or fascination. At a remote military base in Nevada, Lieutenant Sarah Collins was still stationed on the rooftop, her binoculars glued to the massive ship hovering above. She couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to happen. But while Sarah focused on the skies, trouble was brewing closer to home. Inside the base, Private Ethan Brooks moved nervously through the corridors. He was a young soldier, barely out of training, with unruly brown hair and a habit of biting his nails when anxious. Today, however, his nerves weren't caused by combat drills or inspections. It was because he'd stumbled into something far bigger than himself. Earlier that day, while tinkering with experimental equipment in the lab, Ethan had accidentally triggered an alarm system designed to detect alien signals. The sudden blaring noise sent everyone running, including Officer James Carter, who arrived moments later with a scowl etched across his face. "What's going on here?" Carter barked, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. Ethan froze, his hands hovering over the control panel. I didn't mean to," he stammered. "I was just testing some frequencies, and then this happened." Carter crossed his arms, his piercing blue eyes narrowing as he studied Ethan. "Testing frequencies? You're not authorized to touch classified equipment, soldier. Do you even know what you've done?" Ethan shook his head, guilt washing over him. "No, sir. I swear I didn't mean any harm. I thought it might help us understand those ships better." Carter sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. He knew Ethan wasn't lying. His wide-eyed panic was genuine. But protocol was protocol. Accidents involving sensitive technology were taken very seriously, especially during times like these. Without another word, Carter grabbed Ethan by the arm and escorted him to the holding area. As Ethan sat slumped in a cold, dimly lit cell, his mind raced. He hadn't expected things to spiral so quickly. All he'd wanted was to contribute to prove himself useful in the face of humanity's greatest mystery. Instead, he was locked up like a criminal, left to wonder if anyone would believe his intentions were good. Meanwhile, Carter retreated to his office, determined to dig deeper into Ethan's background. Something about the private's nervous demeanor and his mention of classified equipment had caught his attention. Sitting at his desk, Carter pulled up Ethan's personnel file on his computer. What he found shocked him. According to the records, Ethan's father was none other than Dr. Marcus Brooks, a renowned scientist whose work in advanced physics and extraterrestrial studies had earned him both fame and controversy. Carter vaguely remembered hearing about Project Horizon, a top-secret initiative rumored to involve reverse engineering alien tech. Could Ethan's connection to his father explain how he knew so much about classified systems? Carter leaned back, in his chair staring at the screen. This changed everything. If Ethan really was connected to Dr. Brooks, locking him up might have been a mistake. On the other hand, releasing him without proper clearance could be equally dangerous. For now, Carter decided to keep Ethan detained while he consulted with his superiors. Elsewhere in the base, Sarah Collins remained oblivious to the drama unfolding inside. Her focus was entirely on the alien ship looming above. Using a handheld scanner, she analyzed its energy signature, jotting down notes in a small notebook. Though the ship emitted no visible weapons or signs of aggression, Sarah couldn't ignore the ominous presence it cast over the base. "Lieutenant," a voice called from behind her. Sarah turned to see Captain Reynolds approaching, his face flushed with urgency. "We just received intel from HQ," he said breathlessly. "There's been unusual activity near the destroyer. Drones are being deployed, possibly for reconnaissance." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Are they planning an attack, Wikair?" "Don't know yet," Reynolds admitted. "But we need to prepare for anything. Get your team ready to move." Nodding grimly, Sarah hurried down to the command center. As she briefed her squad, her thoughts drifted briefly to Ethan. She'd met him once before during a routine training exercise, and remembered him as quiet but eager to learn. Was he involved in whatever was happening now? She pushed the thought aside. There were more pressing matters to deal with. Back in the holding cell, Ethan paced anxiously. Hours had passed since Carter had locked him up, and no one had come to check on him. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Just as despair began to creep in, the door creaked open, and Carter stepped inside. "You're telling me you didn't know about your father's work?" Carter asked, his tone skeptical but less harsh than before. Ethan shook his head vigorously. "I swear I didn't. My dad never talked about his projects, not to me anyway. I only heard rumors growing up." Carter studied him carefully, searching for any sign of deception. Finally, he nodded. "All right, here's the deal. We're facing a situation unlike anything we've ever seen. Those ships up there, they're not attacking, but they're watching us closely. We need every advantage we can get. If you're willing to cooperate, maybe you can help us figure out what's going on." Relief flooded Ethan's face. "Of course. Whatever you need, I'll do it." Carter unlocked the cell and led Ethan back to the lab. Along the way, he explained the gravity of the situation. "Your father's research may hold the key to understanding these aliens. If we can tap into their communication systems or even decipher their language, we might stand a chance at avoiding conflict." In the lab, Ethan got straight to work. His fingers flew across the keyboard as he accessed encrypted files related to Project Horizon. Though much of the data was fragmented, he managed to piece together valuable insights about alien frequencies and energy patterns. Meanwhile, Carter kept watch, ensuring no unauthorized personnel entered the room. Hours later, as dawn broke over the horizon, Ethan finally looked up from his workstation. "I think I've got something," he said, his voice tinged with excitement. "Based on these readings, the aliens are using a modulation technique similar to ones my dad experimented with. If we tweak our transmitters accordingly, we might be able to establish contact." Carter raised an eyebrow. "You sure about this?" "As sure as I can be," Ethan replied. "It's worth a shot." Word of Ethan's discovery spread quickly through the base. By mid-morning, Sarah and her team had assembled in the command center to discuss the next steps. Armed with Ethan's findings, they devised a plan to send a signal to the nearest destroyer. It was risky. There was no guarantee the aliens would respond peacefully, but doing nothing felt equally perilous. As preparations got underway, Carter approached Sarah privately. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice. "I owe you an apology. Earlier I made a snap judgment about Brooks here. Turns out he's exactly who we need right now." Sarah smiled faintly. "Mistakes happen, especially under pressure. Let's just focus on making this work." By the time evening fell, the base was alive with anticipation. Everyone knew the coming hours would determine Earth's fate. Would the aliens answer their call? Or would humanity's attempt at communication provoke disaster? For Ethan, the weight of responsibility was overwhelming. He'd gone from being a nobody locked in a cell to a crucial player in humanity's most important mission. As he helped calibrate the transmission device, he whispered a silent prayer. Above them, the Star Destroyers continued their silent vigil, their intentions still shrouded in mystery. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert landscape, humanity prepared to take its first tentative step toward bridging the gap between worlds. The night was eerily quiet as the team at the Nevada military base prepared to send their first signal to the alien destroyer hovering above. Lieutenant Sarah Collins stood in the command center, her hands resting on the edge of a large table, covered with maps, schematics, and hastily scribbled notes. Around her, soldiers and technicians worked feverishly, adjusting dials, monitoring screens, and double-checking every detail of the transmission device. The air buzzed with nervous energy, a mix of hope and dread that hung heavy over everyone present. Ethan Brooks sat at a workstation nearby, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he fine-tuned the frequency settings based on his earlier research. His face was pale but determined, beads of sweat forming on his forehead despite the cool temperature inside the room. Beside him, Officer James Carter watched closely, occasionally leaning in to ask questions or offer suggestions. Though Carter had initially doubted Ethan's abilities, he now trusted the young man implicitly, knowing that their success or failure depended on his expertise. "All right," Ethan said finally, pushing back from the desk. "I think we're ready. If they're listening, this should get their attention." Sarah nodded, her voice steady despite the knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. "Let's do it." With a deep breath, one of the technicians activated the transmitter. A soft hum filled the room as the machine powered up, sending waves of carefully modulated signals into the atmosphere. For several long minutes, nothing happened. The team held their collective breath, eyes glued to the monitors displaying real-time data. Then suddenly, the destroyer above them flickered. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal and a series of lights began pulsing rhythmically along its hull. "They're responding!" someone shouted, breaking the tense silence. Cheers erupted around the room, but Sarah quickly raised a hand to quiet them. "Hold your positions," she ordered. "We don't know what this means yet." As the team analyzed the incoming signals, Ethan leaned forward, his brow furrowed in concentration. "It's not hostile," he murmured after a moment. "They're trying to communicate. This pattern, it matches some of the algorithms my dad used in his experiments." Carter stepped closer, his expression grim. "Can you decode it?" "I'll try," Ethan replied, already typing furiously. While Ethan worked, Sarah turned her attention to the larger implications of the aliens' response. Were they curious, threatened, or simply gathering information? Whatever their motives, humanity had just crossed a threshold it couldn't uncross. She glanced at Carter, who gave her a slight nod of reassurance. Together they would navigate whatever came next. Meanwhile, aboard the alien destroyer, Commander Zyrax paced the bridge, his sharp features twisted in frustration. When the transmission from Earth reached his ship, he had been caught off guard. Not only had the humans managed to mimic alien communication protocols, but their signal also carried traces of technology far beyond what Zyrax had anticipated. "How is this possible?" he demanded, turning to his science officer. "Their species shouldn't have access to such advanced systems." The officer hesitated before replying. "Commander, our scans indicate that the signal originated from a facility on Earth's surface. It's possible they've reverse-engineered fragments of alien tech recovered from previous encounters." Zyrax clenched his fists, his mind racing. Previous encounters? That meant humanity had been studying extraterrestrial artifacts for years, perhaps even decades. No wonder their ships were so advanced. But how had they kept it hidden from galactic observers? "We need more data," Zyrax growled. "Deploy reconnaissance drones immediately. I want to know everything about these humans. their capabilities, their weaknesses, and especially their intentions. As the drones launched, Zyrax stared out at the glowing blue orb below. Earth was no longer the primitive planet he'd dismissed as insignificant. Instead, it loomed before him like an enigma, its people proving themselves far more resourceful and dangerous than anyone had imagined. Back on Earth, Ethan finally cracked the code embedded in the alien's response. Leaning back in his chair, he let out a shaky laugh. "I got it," he announced, his voice tinged with disbelief. "They're asking us to identify ourselves." Sarah hurried over, her heart pounding. "That's good news, right? They're not attacking, they're opening a dialogue." "Yes, but..." Ethan hesitated, scrolling through the decoded message. "There's more. They seem cautious, almost wary, like they're expecting us to be aggressive." Carter frowned. "Makes sense. From their perspective, we probably look unpredictable. After all, most civilizations don't build star destroyers unless they're planning something big." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "Then we need to show them we're not a threat. At least not yet." With Ethan's help, the team crafted a reply explaining that Earth sought peaceful contact and mutual understanding. They included basic information about humanity's culture, history, and desire for cooperation. As the message transmitted, the room fell silent once again, everyone waiting anxiously for a reaction. Minutes passed, then hours. Just as doubt began to creep in, the destroyer responded. This time, the signal was clearer, more structured. Ethan's eyes widened as he translated the new message. "They want to meet," he said slowly, his voice trembling with excitement. "Face to face." Sarah straightened, her pulse quickening. "Are they coming down here?" "No," Ethan replied. "They're inviting us to board their ship." A murmur rippled through the room. Boarding an alien vessel was risky, to say the least. Who knew what awaited them inside? But refusing the invitation could be seen as an act of hostility. Sarah exchanged a glance with Carter, silently weighing their options. Finally, Sarah spoke. "We'll go," she decided firmly. "But we'll proceed cautiously. We'll take only a small team, ones we can trust completely." Carter nodded. "Agreed. And Brooks comes with us. His knowledge might make all the difference." Ethan blinked in surprise. "Me? Are you sure?" "You're part of this now," Sarah said with a reassuring smile. "Whether you like it or not." Preparations for the mission began immediately. Sarah selected 3 additional soldiers to accompany her, each chosen for their skills and composure under pressure. Weapons were loaded onto the transport shuttle, though Sarah made it clear they were to be used only as a last resort. Diplomacy was their priority, not combat. As dawn broke over the desert, the team gathered at the launch pad. The alien destroyer loomed above them, its massive silhouette casting a shadow over the entire base. Despite the danger ahead, there was a sense of purpose among the group. They were stepping into the unknown, representing not just their country, but all of humanity. Before boarding the shuttle, Sarah pulled Ethan aside. "Listen," she said softly. "I know this is a lot to handle, especially after everything you've been through, but remember, you're not alone. We're in this together." Ethan swallowed hard, nodding. "Thank you, Lieutenant. I won't let you down." With that, the team climbed aboard the shuttle and lifted off into the sky. Below them, the base grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared entirely. Above them, the destroyer's sleek surface gleamed ominously, its entrance hatch sliding open as they approached. As the shuttle docked and the team disembarked, they found themselves standing in a vast, dimly lit chamber. Alien figures moved, gracefully around them, their elongated limbs and translucent skin making them appear almost ethereal. At the center of the room stood Commander Zyrax, his piercing gaze fixed on the newcomers. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Sarah took a step forward, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. "We come in friendship," she said, her voice calm but firm. "We seek understanding, not conflict." Zyrax studied her for a long moment before responding. Through a translator powered by Ethan's algorithms, his words echoed across the chamber. "You are unlike any species we have encountered," he said. "Your advancements defy explanation. Yet your actions today suggest restraint. Perhaps there is value in learning from one another." Sarah exhaled, relief washing over her. It wasn't a declaration of alliance, but it was a start. Behind her, Ethan felt a surge of pride mixed with awe. He had played a role in bringing two worlds closer together, a feat he never dreamed possible. As the meeting continued, both sides exchanged information cautiously, laying the groundwork for future collaboration. Though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, this encounter marked the beginning of a fragile yet hopeful relationship between Earth and the stars. And somewhere deep within the destroyer, Commander Zyrax allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. Perhaps humanity wasn't the threat he'd feared, but rather an opportunity. Inside the alien destroyer, the atmosphere was tense but charged with possibility. Lieutenant Sarah Collins and her team stood in the vast chamber, surrounded by towering alien figures whose movements were fluid and deliberate. The air smelled faintly metallic, and the low hum of machinery vibrated through the floor beneath their feet. Despite the strangeness of their surroundings, Sarah maintained her composure. Her eyes locked on Commander Zyrax as he addressed them through the translator device Ethan had programmed. "You have demonstrated intelligence and restraint," Zyrax said, his tone measured but tinged with curiosity. "However, we must proceed carefully. Trust is not easily earned." Sarah nodded, choosing her words carefully. "We understand your caution, Commander. Humanity has much to learn from you, and perhaps you from us. But if we are to move forward, transparency will be key." Zyrax tilted his head slightly, a gesture that might have been interpreted as intrigue. He motioned for one of his subordinates to step forward. The alien carried a glowing orb-like device which it placed gently on a pedestal before retreating. Zyrax gestured toward it. "This is our archive, a repository of knowledge and history. We offer limited access as a gesture of goodwill. In return, we expect honesty about Earth's advancements." Ethan's eyes widened as he stared at the orb. It pulsed softly, its light shifting colors like a living entity. He instinctively took a step closer, drawn to the technology. Carter placed a firm hand on his shoulder, pulling him back. "Not so fast," Carter whispered. "Let's not jump into anything reckless." Sarah stepped forward instead, bowing her head slightly in gratitude. "We appreciate your trust, Commander, and we will honor it. But first, may we ask why you came to Earth? Was it merely observation or something more?" Zyrax hesitated, his sharp features tightening. For a moment it seemed he wouldn't answer. Then with a sigh he spoke. "Our mission was indeed to observe. Your species fascinated us, not because of your strength, but because of your unpredictability. However, when these ships appeared above your cities, everything changed. We assumed they belonged to another faction, perhaps preparing to invade. Instead, we discovered they are yours. How did humanity achieve such feats without detection?" The question hung heavily in the air. Sarah glanced at Ethan, who looked uneasy. She knew part of the answer lay in his father's work, but revealing too much could jeopardize Earth's position. After a brief pause, she responded diplomatically. "Humanity's progress has been uneven, marked by both triumphs and failures. Some of our advancements stem from collaboration, others from necessity. I assure you, Commander, our intentions are peaceful." Zyrax studied her intently, his piercing gaze searching for any hint of deception. Finally, he nodded. "Very well, let us begin anew. Share what you can, and we shall do the same." Over the next several hours, the team worked alongside the aliens, exchanging information cautiously. Ethan proved invaluable, deciphering complex alien data streams and translating technical jargon into terms the humans could understand. His connection to his father's research allowed him to bridge gaps between the two civilizations' vastly different technologies. One breakthrough came when Ethan identified similarities between the alien energy signatures and those used in Project Horizon. It's incredible, he murmured, scrolling through lines of code on a shared interface. Their power sources are based on quantum resonance fields, something my dad theorized about years ago. If we combine our understanding, we could make leaps neither side could achieve alone. Sarah watched proudly as Ethan collaborated with the alien scientists, earning their respect despite the initial skepticism. Even Zyrax seemed impressed, though he remained guarded. Your people possess remarkable ingenuity, he admitted during a brief lull in discussions. But ingenuity often breeds ambition. Tell me, Lieutenant, how do you plan to wield this newfound knowledge? Sarah met his gaze squarely. For survival, Commander. Humanity has faced countless challenges: wars, natural disasters, pandemics. Our drive to innovate comes from a desire to protect ourselves and ensure a better future. We don't seek domination, we seek coexistence. Zyrax considered her words silently. Though he didn't respond immediately, Sarah sensed a shift in his demeanor. Perhaps he was beginning to see humanity not as a threat, but as a potential ally. Meanwhile, tensions simmered outside the destroyer. News of the meeting spread quickly across Earth, sparking debates among world leaders and citizens alike. While some hailed the encounter as a historic opportunity, others feared the risks of sharing sensitive information with an unknown species. Protests erupted in major cities with signs reading "No deals with aliens" and "Protect Earth first." At the Nevada base, Captain Reynolds struggled to maintain order as media outlets bombarded him with questions. What's happening aboard the ship? Reporters demanded. Are we compromising Earth security? Reynolds clenched his jaw, torn between transparency and discretion. Ultimately, he issued a vague statement. Negotiations are ongoing. Rest assured, every decision prioritizes humanity's safety. Back inside the destroyer, Sarah and her team felt the weight of global expectations pressing down on them. Each choice they made carried monumental consequences, not just for themselves but for all of humanity. As the day wore on, the discussions grew more detailed. The aliens revealed fascinating insights into their own civilization, including their methods of interstellar travel and resource management. In return, Sarah shared Earth's efforts to combat climate change and develop sustainable energy solutions. Both sides marveled at the parallels in their struggles and aspirations. At one point, Zyrax led the team to a viewing platform overlooking a massive hangar filled with sleek spacecraft. These vessels represent centuries of evolution, he explained. They are designed for exploration, not conquest. Yet even we face limitations. Perhaps together we can overcome them. Ethan's mind raced as he absorbed the information. If we integrate our propulsion systems with theirs, he suggested excitedly, we could create a hybrid engine capable of faster-than-light travel. Imagine what that would mean for humanity. Sarah smiled, seeing the spark of inspiration in Ethan's eyes. For the first time, she truly believed that cooperation could lead to extraordinary outcomes. By the time the team prepared to leave the destroyer, exhaustion weighed heavily on everyone. But there was also a sense of accomplishment. They had laid the foundation for a fragile yet promising alliance, one that required patience, trust, and mutual respect. Before departing, Zyrax addressed them one final time. Know this, he said gravely. Should either side betray this agreement, the consequences will be severe. But should we succeed, then perhaps we can forge a brighter path forward for both our peoples. Sarah extended her hand, mimicking a human gesture of partnership. After a moment's hesitation, Zyrax mirrored the action, his long fingers brushing against hers. It was a small act, but symbolic, an acknowledgement of shared hopes and challenges. As the shuttle lifted off, carrying the team back to Earth, Sarah gazed out the window at the destroyer shrinking in the distance. She felt a mix of relief and anticipation. The road ahead would be fraught with obstacles, but she was confident that humanity's resilience and its capacity for innovation would guide them through. Ethan leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes. For the first time in days, he allowed himself to relax. He had started this journey as a nervous private locked in a cell, unsure of his place in the world. Now he was a key player in shaping the destiny of two civilizations. Carter clapped him on the shoulder, breaking the silence. You did good, kid. Real good. Ethan grinned weakly. Thanks, sir. But this is just the beginning, isn't it? It sure is, Carter replied. And I have a feeling you're going to be right in the thick of it. As the shuttle descended toward the Nevada base, the sun rose over the horizon, casting golden light across the desert. Below, soldiers and technicians gathered, eager to hear the outcome of the mission. Above, the alien destroyers still hovered, silently, their presence a reminder of the vast possibilities and dangers that lay ahead. Humanity had taken its first steps toward forging an alliance with the stars. Whether it would lead to peace or peril remained to be seen. But for now, hope burned brightly, illuminating the path forward. The days following the historic meeting aboard the alien destroyer were a whirlwind of activity. News of humanity's alliance with the extraterrestrial visitors spread like wildfire, sparking jubilation in some quarters and outrage in others. Governments convened emergency sessions to debate the implications of sharing Earth secrets with an unknown species. Scientists raced to analyze the data exchanged during the encounter, while ordinary citizens debated whether this marked the dawn of a golden age or the beginning of humanity's downfall. At the Nevada military base, Lieutenant Sarah Collins found herself at the center of it all. She stood in the command center surrounded by maps, charts, and glowing screens displaying real-time updates from around the globe. Her phone buzzed incessantly with calls from high-ranking officials demanding answers. Yet despite the chaos, Sarah remained calm, her focus unwavering. "This changes everything," Captain Reynolds said as he entered the room, his voice heavy with both awe and apprehension. "We're no longer just Earthlings. We're part of something bigger." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "Yes, but we can't afford to lose sight of who we are. Humanity has always been resilient because we adapt without losing our core values. That's what got us here, and that's what will keep us moving forward." Reynolds sighed, rubbing his temples. "Easier said than done. Half the world thinks we're selling out, and the other half is ready to worship these aliens as gods. How do we strike a balance?" "We start by being honest," Sarah replied firmly. "People need to understand that this alliance isn't about domination or fear, it's about survival. If we work together, we can solve problems neither side could tackle alone." Meanwhile, Ethan Brooks had become an overnight sensation. His role in decoding the alien signals and facilitating communication earned him recognition far beyond the confines of the military base. Reporters clamored for interviews, calling him a genius prodigy and the bridge between worlds. But fame wasn't something Ethan craved. Instead, he threw himself into his work, poring over the alien archive and collaborating with scientists from both sides to unlock its secrets. One evening, as he sat in the lab surrounded by stacks of notes and glowing holographic displays, Carter walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Ethan, who accepted it gratefully. "You've been working nonstop," Carter observed, leaning against a desk. "When was the last time you slept?" Ethan shrugged, taking a sip of the steaming liquid. "Doesn't matter, there's too much to do. Every piece of information we uncover feels like another step toward understanding them, and ourselves." Carter studied him for a moment, then said quietly, "You know, your dad would be proud." Ethan froze, lowering his cup. For years, he'd felt overshadowed by Dr. Marcus Brooks's legacy, unsure if he could ever live up to his father's achievements. Now, hearing those words from Carter filled him with a mix of pride and determination. "Thanks," Ethan murmured after a pause. "I hope I'm making him proud, not just for me, but for everyone." As weeks turned into months, the alliance began yielding tangible results. Joint research facilities sprang up across the globe, combining human ingenuity with alien technology to tackle pressing challenges. Energy shortages became a thing of the past as hybrid power systems harnessed quantum resonance fields. Medical breakthroughs emerged almost daily, curing diseases once thought incurable. Even environmental efforts saw unprecedented success, with advanced filtration systems cleaning polluted air and water faster than anyone had imagined. But progress came with complications. Not everyone welcomed the changes. Conspiracy theories flourished online, accusing governments of hiding ulterior motives behind the alliance. Protests erupted in major cities, with demonstrators chanting slogans like Earth First and No, Alien Influence. Some extremists even attempted sabotage, targeting research sites and communication hubs. Amidst the turmoil, Commander Zyrax faced challenges of his own. Back on his home planet, dubbed Zytheria by human linguists, his superiors questioned the wisdom of trusting humanity. Skeptics argued that humans were too unpredictable, their rapid technological advancements a potential threat to galactic stability. They are not ready, one council member declared during a heated session. Granting them access to our knowledge risks destabilizing the balance we've worked centuries to maintain. Zyrax stood firm, his deep voice resonating through the chamber. Perhaps they are not perfect, he countered. But neither are we. Their flaws make them adaptable, and adaptable beings are worth investing in. Besides, have we forgotten why we came to Earth? To observe, yes, but also to learn. What better way to grow than by embracing diversity? Though not everyone agreed, Zyrax's arguments swayed enough members to secure continued support for the alliance. Still, he knew the road ahead would require vigilance and compromise. Back on Earth, Sarah led efforts to foster trust between the two civilizations. She traveled extensively, visiting communities affected by the alliance and addressing concerns head-on. In rural villages where traditional ways clashed with futuristic innovations, she emphasized the importance of preserving cultural heritage alongside progress. In urban centers buzzing with excitement, she urged caution, reminding people that collaboration required patience and respect. During one such trip, Sarah visited a small town in India where locals had initially resisted alien involvement in local farming practices. Sitting cross-legged under a banyan tree, she listened as farmers expressed their fears about losing control of their livelihoods. "We don't want machines replacing us," one elderly man said, his weathered face lined with worry. "Farming is more than work, it's our identity," Sarah nodded sympathetically. "I understand," she replied gently. "And no one is asking you to abandon your traditions. The goal is to enhance your methods, not replace them. Imagine harvesting crops twice as fast while using half the resources. Wouldn't that give you more time to focus on what truly matters?" Her words struck a chord, and slowly resistance gave way to curiosity. By the end of her visit, several farmers agreed to pilot programs integrating alien tech with traditional techniques. It was a small victory, but symbolic of the larger mission, blending old and new to create something greater than the sum of its parts. Months later, a grand ceremony marked the official launch of the first joint human-alien project, a massive space station orbiting Earth designed to serve as a hub for interstellar cooperation. Representatives from nations worldwide gathered alongside Zytherian delegates, exchanging gifts and signing treaties, formalizing the alliance. Fireworks lit up the night sky as crowds cheered below, celebrating a future brimming with possibilities. Standing, on stage, Sarah delivered a speech that echoed across continents. "Today we stand united, not as separate entities but as partners bound by shared dreams and aspirations. This journey won't always be easy, but together we can overcome any obstacle. Let this moment remind us that when faced with uncertainty, we choose hope. When confronted with fear, we choose courage. And when given the chance to build bridges instead of walls, we seize it with open hearts and minds." Applause thundered through the crowd as Sarah stepped back, tears glistening in her eyes. Beside her, Ethan grinned widely, his youthful enthusiasm infectious. Even Carter allowed himself a rare smile, clapping along with the rest. Above, the Star Destroyers still hovered silently, their presence now a symbol of unity rather than intimidation. Below, humanity looked to the stars with renewed optimism, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. As the ceremony concluded, Zyrax approached Sarah privately. "Your species continues to surprise me," he admitted, his tone softer than usual. "Perhaps there is wisdom in imperfection after all." Sarah, smiled warmly. And perhaps there's strength in diversity. Together we'll find out. With that, the two leaders shook hands once more, sealing a bond forged in trust, resilience, and the unyielding belief that cooperation could transcend even the vastness of space. In the end, the story of Earth's encounter with the aliens became a testament to the power of curiosity, courage, and collaboration. From the initial shock of the Star Destroyer's arrival to the fragile yet hopeful alliance that followed, humanity proved it could rise above fear and uncertainty. And though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, the seeds of unity had been planted, promising a brighter, shared future among the stars.